we will bring the public hearing for our temporary use permit 0313 to order. And we'll get a motion to adopt this tiny agenda, which is a single item. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Latimer, all in favor of the agenda? Perfect. And I will outline the meeting process. This temporary use permit is to allow for a parking lot as a permitted use at 1445 Fifth Avenue. Right? Yeah. Fifth Avenue. So we'll get Corporate Officer Braden Hutchins to provide an overview of temporary use permit 0313. Is that you're gonna do? Yeah. Oh, you want me to read out what we're all gonna do, and then?
Oh, that's fine.
Why don't you just jump in there right now?
So temporary use permit 0313 is to allow for sled traffic, trucks and trailers to be parked for a period of 1 year on the vacant lot that the village owns in between Monshi Motors and then the health clinic.
So they can park there for 1 year?
If they want permanently, no, they can't.
Okay.
But a parking lot is not currently a permitted use at that lot because it's owned C4. So this would allow the addition of a parking lot as a permitted use. Entrance would be off 5th Avenue. Traffic would exit then off 6th Avenue. There'd be signage at either end of the parking lot directing traffic, and a barricade would be put up in between the vacant lot and Monshi Motors, just to ensure that there's no infringement on either side.
Yeah.
The village would also develop brochures to be put out at the various hotels and establishments advising people that that lot was available. Yeah. Letters were sent to all the surrounding neighbors, and only one verbal statement was recorded. Mr. Jacko Sadchuk came into the office yesterday and asked for his verbal statement to be taken down. And other than that, we have not received any feedback. Okay, so I'll just read. Sure.
So we'll go into the second portion of the meeting where we hear the public feedback, letters, and comments.
And there's only one. So Mr. Sadchuk would like to bring the following concerns to the attention of council. And there's 4. Access, damage, the road barrier, and security. So access, Mr. Osachuk is concerned that sledders will mistake the Monshi Motors Road as access to the parking lot, creating congestion and potentially blocking access to the business. Number 2, damage. He's concerned that the high volume of traffic in the lot may lead to damaging vehicles being serviced at Monshi Motors. 3, the road barrier.
Oh, wait a second. So that if there's a vehicle pulled up there for service,
that's right,
that it might get nicked by a,
I believe that's the intent of this statement.
Got it, yeah.
Number 3, the road barrier. Mr. Osachuk would like to know what type of barrier will be used between the parking lot and Monshi Motors. Okay. And the last one is security. Mr. Osachuk is concerned about security issues in an unattended and dark parking lot at night.
Okay.
So just to, from a staff perspective, I would just also like to note that Monshi Motors uses the entire length of the frontage as a parking lot, and then they have that driveway that goes down
where the bus goes.
The left where the bus goes. So they have quite a large set of parking in front, and then there's that road heading to the back on their side of the fence or the hedge. I'll just leave it at that, actually.
Okay.
So that wraps up comment received by staff to date.
Okay. Excellent. Great. So those are all the. I'm going to ask for comments from the public. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak to this temporary use permit? Okay. I don't think that there is.
Second call.
Sorry?
Do you want to do a second and a third call?
Yeah. Oh, do I call 3 times? Okay. All right. Does anybody want to speak to this temporary use permit? Does anybody want to speak to this? That's a 3rd time. Yeah. Okay. Good. Great. Yeah. Okay, and then we'll have a chance to Right. Okay, I mean, that's basically it. We
Yeah.
have a meeting to take the stuff. We don't comment on it. We will get to review this in the regular council meeting. That's the appropriate time. And for now, I guess it's just a matter of declaring the meeting adjourned. So I'll take Councillor Salt, Councillor Bullock. All in favor of adjournment? Fantastic. Call the meeting to order. Welcome to the regular council meeting for the Village of Valemount for Tuesday, November 26. It's our vision our vision is striving for a vibrant and balanced community. And it's our mission to serve the community and embrace opportunity. And the first order of business tonight is to adopt the agenda. Any additions or omissions? I will just add one secret item. How do I have to let the cat out of the bag? And if she leaves the room, it's process's fault. We're just gonna
You're just gonna add an
we're just gonna add an item to thank an employee. To keep it a secret. There, I did that. Okay, so with the amendment, Councillor Salt, Councillor Blanchette, all in favor? Okay. Just for Donaldo, we just added an agenda item, and we'll just take care of that first, because we recognize that Katie has a life. So this is the last council meeting that our intern, the very brave Katie Fabris, has been working with us for 6 months. It's been tremendous. She's done a tremendous amount of work for us, and we're really gonna miss her. And the stuff she magically gets done.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. We're gonna miss you.
All right.
ABC is gonna be.
And just if you could just stand up and give a little speech. Right, we've only got one delegation, that's true. Point of order. Okay, very good. I don't think we need any, no, that's good. Okay, we'll just move on to the next agenda item. Cool. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the previous minutes from November 12th. Any changes or substantive? Okay, Councillor Salt, Councillor Latimer, all in favor? That's minutes. Okay, moving on to our first delegation. It is Emergency Management BC. Again, Michael Higgins, welcome. And today he's going to walk us through another presentation, another facet of emergency management, which last time was, if you're a politician, stay out of the way, in brief. And this time, we're going to talk about what we expect from the public, and well, let's hear it from you.
Thank you. Yes, last time was primarily geared towards the elected officials and general emergency management. This installment is more around what everyone can do. Some of the personal protective behaviors that I mentioned in the last presentation around stay or go, I'll discuss in a little bit more detail this evening. So, when we talk about personal protective behaviors, we're talking about two options, and only two options. There's shelter in place or evacuate, what I like to call stay or go. Those are the only two options. It's our natural instinct. This is something that we've done for time as long as we can remember. As long as there's been people, animals on the planet, we've sought shelter when bad things happened, whether it was the rain, whether it was predators, whether it was asteroids coming out of the sky. We've always looked for safe places to go. So this is something we do naturally. It requires an immediate appreciation of the situation and the ability to take immediate action for it to be successful, whether that's sheltering in place or evacuation. I like to use the turtle because, as far as I'm aware, the turtle is probably one of the only animals that I'm familiar with that has the ability to do either one instantaneously. Unfortunately, they don't evacuate real quick, so they rely on sheltering in place. Situational awareness, incredibly important. You have to know what the situation is to be able to take the appropriate action. Now, this picture of the cat and the dogs, you don't know 100% what the cat's thinking or what the dogs are thinking, but you know they're both aware of each other. What the outcome looks like, your guess is as good as mine. Once again, our objectives, the primary objective with the emergency management system that we use in British Columbia is to provide for the safety and health of all responders, save lives and reduce suffering. This allows us to provide that integrated and coordinated response that I spoke about the last time. That allows the Emergency Operations Center and the site responders to create a plan, put that plan in action, and then do the best possible thing based on the situation that they're faced with. So the first piece is notification. It's important that people know what to do, but they need to know something is wrong first. How you get in touch with people, whether it's through cellular communications, text messaging, landlines, the One Call Now system that exists, people need to know something's gone wrong. And from that, they can determine whether they need to stay or go. Sometimes simple is better. The simplest notification system that I'm familiar with is the bell that we use for fire alarms. We've all been taught this right from grade school. We know what it means, we know what to listen for. There are variations of it, but we still intrinsically understand what that simple notification is. The siren is another one. People know what to do when they hear a siren. They know to look around, think about their options, look for danger, and determine whether or not it's something they need to respond to. Lately, we've had more and more trusted information sources coming in through social media and our smartphones. I now fully recognize that smartphones are the way of the future when it comes to people getting their information. It may not be the primary source, but they will turn to their smartphones, tablets, laptops to get that secondary or third confirmation that something needs to be done or something has gone wrong. So it's very important to have a presence there as well. What that looks like depends on every community, as they're all different. A lot of times it's just trusted people with local knowledge. These individuals are hard to find these days. But if you have them in your community, they may not look exactly like this, but if you have them in your community, they will be those people that others look to when something happens and they need to make a decision. Stay or go. There's only two options. Sometimes it's a little difficult to determine which one you need to do first, but I'll speak about that a little bit later. Once again, stay is shelter in place. This requires practice. This is a high school down in the States where they have trained the students to shelter in place due to tornadoes. There's a whole host of things that could require you to shelter in place. They could be hazardous materials or hazardous substance releases. They could be active shooters, for instance, at an academic institution. It all depends on the scenario, but there's only two options. This does not happen overnight. Training students to sit comfortably and quietly in a hallway or room does not happen overnight. It's something that has to be part of the community culture. Go. Evacuation. This is usually the easiest for us to understand. When someone comes to the door and says, it's time to go. Leave or flee. Evacuation, though, requires some planning. It requires things like determining what routes are to be used, what routes are not to be used, what the prevailing winds might be if it's a hazardous material substance release, or if it's a tsunami, which direction to go, up to higher ground. It all depends on the circumstances, so it does require some planning as well. Sometimes there's a circumstance where you need to shelter in place and then evacuate. But I'll speak a little bit more about that towards the end of the presentation when I use the Shackleton experience as an example. Earlier on this year, we had the town of West Texas. They had an explosion within their community, within an industrial plant that did a large amount of damage in a very short period of time. It was an extremely volatile explosion that created damages to a residential environment as well. Once again, it's important to know what's around you and what the best tactic is. In this particular circumstance, if people had sheltered in place, they may have had a 50-50 chance. If they had evacuated out of the opposite side of the building, they may have had a 50-50 chance. Sometimes there's no guarantee. Earlier on this year also, we saw what happened in Boston when they had a police incident where they were looking for an individual or individuals that had done some very bad things. How do you lock down a community? How do you lock down a city? Well, I guarantee you that was not the first time or the best time to introduce the concept of shelter in place to a city or a community. To be able to have the confidence to put that banner up over the highway, they must have done some research beforehand. The other reason, you have to ensure that people understand why you're asking them to do what they're doing, whether it's evacuate or shelter in place. One of the most difficult scenarios that has been observed in the United States is trying to get people to evacuate in advance of a hurricane because it's a bright, beautiful, sunny day. There just sometimes isn't the impetus to get people to move. We see the same thing up here on occasion when it's a bright, beautiful, sunny day and people are being told that they need to leave because of wildfire. Sometimes that wildfire is cutting off their access or egress. It may not be directly impinging on the community, but they have to understand why. A lot of the human factors that go along with this is the lack of understanding around the hazard, especially if people are new and haven't had that type of hazard before in the communities that they lived in. An appreciation of the immediate situation, also not knowing how bad it could get. People need preparedness. They need a level of preparedness to enable action. They need at least two sources to confirm what they're seeing, feeling, or hearing, and they need public education and leadership beforehand to make those things possible when they're being asked to move or stay. You have to make a plan, but you have to make the right plan. So in a tornado, you want to get down into the basement. In a fire, you want to get out. And in a chemical or hazardous materials and substance release, you want to stay in and seal up. Once again, this is where individual plans and family plans are most important. For local governments, declaring a local state of emergency, whether or not it is an evacuation or shelter-in-place incident, is the same process. You're just asking people to take different self-protective behavior. It may be a circumstance where people are better off staying where they are, or it may be a situation where they need to stay where they are until you can make safe passage for them to evacuate. There's a whole host of information on the Emergency Management BC website around declaring a local state of emergency, and I'm more than willing to come back and discuss that at a subsequent meeting. So, shelter in place, time to act. Usually there isn't a lot of warning when people are being asked to shelter in place. In the Cariboo Regional District, last year, I believe, or early this winter, last winter, they had a truck rollover. Unbeknownst to the rest of the people in the general area, at first, they didn't realize the severity of the truck. The truck was carrying a large amount of explosive material. So in this circumstance, as one of the outcomes from that event, we realized it wasn't very well understood by the population what shelter in place meant. What people need to do, they need to be able to go to an accessible room that has a pre-identified kit in it so that they can shelter in place. The room also needs to be accessible for people that have mobility issues within the environment that they are taking that shelter in place action. Sometimes it's just duct tape and plastic, being able to seal yourself in. Having a kit beforehand is imperative. Emergency response programs require situational awareness. You don't always know what that smoke is what's in that smoke. You may know it's dark smoke, but you don't know what's in it. There needs to be an acceptance that bad things can, will, and do happen, and that the severity may not always be what it looks like. Example, if this is a car full of chlorine, it could be completely different than if it's a car full of oil. Community preparedness, once again, I absolutely love this photo because this type of thing does not happen naturally. You don't get people just sitting there waiting without training. Most shelter-in-place incidents last less than 3 hours before safe passage can be made or the situation can be rectified to ensure that first responders are properly safe and that the need for the shelter-in-place requirement is secure. A lot of it, usually from a hazardous materials and substance release standpoint, is determined by the product, the strength, and the exposure time. And you will need technical specialists to provide you with that information. Evacuation. This is when the fire alarms sound and it's time to leave. As I said before, we've been trained to do this since we were children. We know how to evacuate. The key is knowing when to leave, where to go, and who needs help to get there or to leave. People and their pets. It's amazing how many people will not evacuate because of their pets. The one lady that I spoke to at the after action review for the Cariboo Regional District mentioned her pets specifically when she was being asked about shelter in place. What should I do with my pets? I said, well, if you're sheltering in place, you need to bring them in with you, if you can. If you're evacuating, you need to take them with you, if you can. And you need to have some sort of plan in place to look after them, because they are the owner's responsibility. So I mentioned earlier about the Shackleton experience. I call it managing the unexpected. So just in brief, Ernest Shackleton and the crew of the Endurance set sail in 1914 to cross Antarctica. They believed everything was going to go well. They planned for what they knew, and then the situation changed and they had to adjust. First off, things were going well. Then the ship, the Endurance, got trapped in the ice, broke apart, and sank to the bottom while they stood on the ice and watched. That began an almost 2-year saga of them trying to self-rescue. At that moment, I'm sure just before that moment, Shackleton and his chief officers realized that the original objective for them leaving had changed. Now it was all about getting home. I really like this quote. We are likely to overestimate how stable our world is. They needed to take action once they were stuck on the ice because you can't stay there. They were empowered to make decisions and change their circumstances. Yes, they did shelter in place as long as they could on the ship. Then the situation changed and they needed to evacuate. They developed a real organizational culture of survival. As I said, they spent almost 2 years trying to get rescued, and in the end had to effect their own rescue. This picture, it's very hard to see in the center, but there's a small boat out there, and they're about to make one of the most incredible crossings to get to assistance to rescue the entire party. And that's their leader and a few other trusted men on board. Not a soul was lost. simply because of the culture and the actions and the decisions that they had made. I gain a particular feeling of resilience from this one particular example. They were lucky. They were extremely lucky that I can stand here today and say no one was lost, and it makes for a great story. That could have ended so much differently, as it did for many other expeditions. But because of the culture that they had, the actions that they took, and the calculated way that they went about rescuing themselves, not a man was lost. As with all things, people must come first, and it's our responsibility to ensure that's the case. You are the advocate. You are empowered to make those decisions that impact and affect others and their well-being. And you are not alone. You do not have to make decisions in isolation, and you can always ask for help. And you need to trust the rest of the tribe, as I like to call it, that they will be there to support you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mr. Higgins.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, that was good.
I feel like applauding.
Yeah, well, hey, let's give him some applause. Very nice. I wasn't expecting a happy story as Shackleton. I thought, yeah, there's a reason you don't hear that name much anymore. Old Shackleton and his boys. But that's a good story. So let's move receipts. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Latimer, all in favor? Did you folks have any questions for?
I just want to say thank you for coming again.
Yeah, it's great to see you out here. We'll move right along to the next item on the agenda is the just the reading file. Anything you guys wanted to pull out? Okay, if you're not anxious to do it, we'll just take it as it stands. Or, I mean, I can give you time too. Anything that pops out there for you? A nice letter from the Minister of Transportation. Okay, so let's move receipts. I'll get Councillor Salt, Councillor Bullock. All in favor? Okay, we'll move on to Administrator Report, Section 8, Medical Marijuana. Staff is... Did you want to take this one, Hollie? Councillor Blanchette? Ooh, sorry. Breach of protocol there.
Okay.
Well, only because it's a referral to the...
So we're going to refer it to the APC. Did we find out how much is on their plate right now?
They have finished street vendors and mobile vendors. They're about to finish home-based business.
Yeah.
Also referred to them as bed and breakfast and short-term vacation rentals. Though the urgency of those, they could be pushed back a little bit to allow for medical marijuana.
Okay, because this is under a time.
It is, yes.
Okay. All right. So do we want to send this forward?
Looks like they can put it in the queue. I'll move it to refer it to the Advisory Planning Commission.
I'll second it.
Excellent. All in favor? Beautiful. I didn't mean to. I just thought because it said APC, I'd give it to you, and then, yeah. Anyway. All right. Hazard trees on 202 Ash Street. I'm pleased that this is coming to council. Staff, there's quite a good report here, and staff is asking council to authorize access to 202 Ash Street by a municipal employee, a certified arborist, so that a professional hazard assessment of the property may be completed. Right in the middle of town. I've always wondered what the deal is, but it was really nice to see attached the copious amount of correspondence, just saying, this is serious, give us a call. Second time, this is really serious. Third time, unless you respond by this date, we're taking action on our own. So it's nice that we do have this ability to act, because it is in town. So if we're able to reduce the risk there. Councillor Salt and Councillor Bullock. All in favor? Okay. Projector rental. Council is asked to give VCTV approval to use the village projector with the fees waived. Councillor Latimer, Councillor Salt. Any discussion?
Just for what it was for?
Yeah. Gentleman Idle. Yeah.
But we did approve it through email.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Excellent. I hope will that be coming up in reports? Okay, so moving on to bylaws and policies. Section 14. Temporary use permit 0313 and development variance permit 0713 to allow for the parking of trucks and trailers at 1445 Fifth Avenue. The staff recommendation is that we approve the temporary use permit and development variance permit 0713. And just to have a good order of business here, I'd like it if we moved that and got it on the table and then had a discussion about it. So I'll move it. Councillor Blanchette. Okay, and let's have a discussion. This is the, regarding the item that we had the public hearing for.
So I thought Mr. Osachek had some valid points that we need to look into and make sure that those are covered, because I understand we're going to be going in on 5th and exiting on 6th. So if the parking lot is used as much as it is right now, there's not a lot of room to get in there.
When you say used as much as it is right now, do you mean by Monashee Motors?
Yeah.
There's going to be a barrier in between to separate that.
Okay, what kind of barrier?
It depends what Public Works has, whatever is easiest. Could be newel posts, it could be curbs.
Yeah, I think if we, I think one thing, do you think it would be fair to, sorry for jumping in, is that, would it be fair to speak to these kind of things to make sure that the entrance isn't in a way that goes very close? And I mean, certainly if we have, just in my mind thinking of the technicalities of this, if we have a barrier that goes close enough to the road, then you have to go around, drive through the barrier, whatever. But if we can just ask, as this is implemented, for Public Works to keep in mind to these items. I mean, they don't seem unattainable. I mean, it's not like, you get the parking going on there and everything blows apart. Certainly, as far as security goes, not sure if I should relate a personal story or not, but my partner left town on the Greyhound bus and was away for 7 days, and I was supposed to pick up the car, but she had both keys. And so it was there for like 7 days, unlocked, or whatever. I know it's different with sleds or whatever, but I mean, it's not totally exceptional in my experience.
I think, like you said, if we can get Public Works just to be aware that these are important issues that need to be considered when they're putting the things in place.
Yeah.
Can I just make 2 points of clarification on the resolution?
Sure.
First, would it be okay with council if these points just be brought to the Public Works Superintendent verbally by Anna and myself, and we don't actually put them as conditions?
Yeah, for sure.
The temporary use permit. And
I'm in support of that. I think that's, yeah.
What was the next?
the second one was I neglected one clarification in this resolution, and the temporary use permit should be time bound.
Just for 1 year.
Yeah, in the actual resolution itself, and I should have put that in the.
It was in your report, but it's not here. So we just do it for a year, and that way, either way, if we have a bunch of issues with this, we come back to it next year, if it's a total disaster.
Can I offer a suggestion? Sledding season technically ends April 30th. So would it make more sense to put the use permit only till April 30th and then look at it then, as opposed to looking at it next December?
I think that's fine.
It's a good idea.
And then we'll just be fresh off the experience of having.
Right, and then
Gone through
maybe
it.
make some different, or some changes. I think, not that they can't read, but I think that there's gonna be people coming in from 5th and 6th, and I think there are gonna be some problems, let's hope not.
Yeah.
But unless somebody's out there directing them how to park, they're gonna park however they feel like parking.
Right.
So I think to have it to end April 30th would probably be in our best interest.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was my question, was what happens in the summertime?
Yeah.
So we'll, just for good bookkeeping, we'll have Councillor Latimer making an amendment to that amendment with the time on there. And do we have a seconder for the amendment? And we'll vote on the amendment. And then, sorry, I've just been at regional district meetings, we do this all the time, vote on the amendment. And then on the original motion, the idea that, or if we're quite finished discussion, if we're comfortable with where that lays, it's pretty reasonable. Try it out for 6 months or so. All in favor? Sure. Temporary use permits for 2 short-term vacation rentals, 14.2. That council, so the staff recommendation is that we approve staff to proceed with the temporary use permit application process and refer both applications to outside agencies, including nearby property owners. I'll move that.
Yeah, second it.
Councillor Bullock.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I noticed it's being requested to be a permit for 3 years. Most trial things we do is 1 year. Why is this 3?
It's not really a trial. The temporary use permit gives us tools to allow for input from neighbors and surrounding properties. And it's the most commonly used and most appropriate tool for this kind of an operation.
Would you like, can I build on that?
Absolutely.
In consultation with other planners, they recommended 3 years for this type of thing. And that actually aligns nicely with our strategic priorities in terms of an update to the OCP and zoning bylaw. We're not exactly sure when that will happen, but when that does happen, that would be an appropriate time to consider putting these types of regulations in the zoning bylaw regarding short-term vacation rentals. But if that doesn't happen for 2 or 3 years, then we have this in place now without having to charge the short-term vacation rental owners $450 every year to reapply.
I'll just comment on that too. I think we know that there's short-term vacation rentals happening. We don't really have anything for that. So this is a really great way of sort of recognizing that use and getting planning for it even. And I think it's a really good, you could say, well, I mean, one could argue that we know that this use is going on. It's substantially different than residential. You know, maybe we should pull out a whole bylaw for that and do it. Except that it's been really good. It's been really good to date. We haven't had complaints. There hasn't been anything. So it's kind of like things are good, but what it does is sort of gets it on the books and allows us to think about it for what it is. These homes aren't owned by residents. They're vacation rentals.
And we haven't had any issues?
No. Yeah. So seems like a good compromise.
And the balance of the vacation homes in Valemount will be contacted then?
And they already have me.
Okay.
And one of the conditions of business license approval for next year will be going to the temporary use permit process.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, in terms, yeah, anyways, if there's a longer conversation that's, around the planning stuff is that, yeah, but I think we handled that fairly well, yeah.
I know this went to the regional district as well. Have they moved it forward in the regional district?
So the regional district is in a pretty different situation. And some of it, as a board member there, some of that process is actually going through court. So they're sort of testing the limits of so they've made some legislation around where you can do vacation rentals and where not. And that's sort of really being, sort of borne out right now in court. And we'll sort of see, maybe in the spring, we'll have a sense of where they're going. But they really, it's a lot more open in the regional district for most places. But there's some places where if it's a special management zone for some reason, it's a little bit trickier. So, but anyways, yeah. Okay, so we've got it on the floor. Are we ready to vote on it? All in favor? Okay, great. Indemnification bylaw. That council approves third reading of the Village of Valemount indemnification bylaw. And this is the bylaw that simply makes sure that we are insured and our operators are insured. I mean, our staff, officers, everybody else. I'll move it. Yeah, Councillor Blanchette. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Council remuneration bylaw. I'll move this to get it on the floor, that we approve third reading of the council remuneration bylaw, number 707, 2013. And Councillor Latimer. And just a little discussion. The only way that council remuneration has changed is in this, that this bylaw is separated out from the indemnification bylaw. It used to be called the indemnification bylaw, which can be confusing. And our legal advice is you need to have an indemnification bylaw that's about the legal liability stuff. It can also mean pay in some sort of old parlance, but it's better to have a remuneration bylaw too. So it's not that there's been a change to the amount that we're paid or any of that. It's just that it's its own separate bylaw. So with that, all in favor? Great. Okay, fees and charges bylaw, number 708, 2013. So fees and charges, I'd like to get this onto the floor. And again, I'll move this. Can I get a seconder for it, Councillor Blanchette? Okay, let's have a discussion. Page 77 and to 84.
So your worship, you may want to discuss all three together, since the only reason fees and charges is here is to extract the water and
Yeah,
sewer fees and
right.
charges. Put them
Okay.
in the fees and charges.
Councillor Salt.
I'm a little concerned. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, so I just would like staff to verify, but when I'm reading point number 2, repeal on the actual bylaw 708, 2013, the fees and charges amendment bylaw, it's saying Schedule A of bylaw number 699, 2013, fees and charges bylaw is hereby repealed and replaced with the new Schedule A as attached hereto and forming part of this bylaw. Well, by doing that, we're eliminating all the hard work that Councillor Blanchette, Deputy Corporate Officer Hutchins, and myself did by putting all the fees and charges for the animal bylaw, the solid waste collection bylaw, sign bylaw, and the adjudication bylaw. And it would only be then putting on the water and sewer fees and charges. That's how I'm reading it. Am I reading that wrong?
Whereas perhaps the...
It should be worded amended to include.
I'm gonna jump in here actually. I'm amazed at this is reading like this because you are absolutely correct. First is I can offer an apology. Last week, Lori and I and Sylvia were having significant errors with the server, and after repeated savings, different versions were popping back up at different times. And the way this is reading now is actually, you're absolutely right. That's not how it's supposed to be reading. We were not repealing it. We're amending. We're amending to add on. That's exactly right. You'll also note that the numbering, it goes 1, 3, 5, 15.
Yeah.
That was changed. And that, my last read was 4. And so you're absolutely right. There are a couple errors that are not supposed to be there. And those are likely relevant just to the fees and charges bylaw.
Okay.
Because this was a one that we were having particular problems with the server.
You probably all had it open at the same time because you're all working on it together.
We may have...
Should have me there. Okay, so let's just go through and establish, so this fees and charges thing would, it is in addition to the rest of the fees and charges we've already established. Yeah, okay, with that.
Good catch.
Hey, we didn't go through all that work for nothing.
Right on, okay. Good show. And then, so we're just looking at 708, which is fees and charges, and it just adds this piece.
We'll bring back the correct version.
And building on that,
Yeah.
there's about 10 changes that will need to be made, because I can look at this now and I can see everything that I changed and is not in here.
Okay.
What they don't affect is the substantive meat of it, the
Okay.
fees and charges. Those are right. It's numbering and stuff like that that is off. And so when it comes back for third reading, it'll be the small tweaks, but the fees are the same.
I don't mind. Would you be comfortable with a short recess and we could get the printed copy of that? It wouldn't be totally out of
It's
order.
ready to go.
Is it the
think I
correct
could,
one
yeah.
on the server right now?
I mean, I think we could, I mean, we know that we can do first and
The
second
intent.
reading
Exactly. True that.
and make sure that it's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Third reading.
Yeah.
Or we just don't do third reading and refer it
Yeah.
to either a special meeting or the
Okay.
following meeting. So I think as long as we make sure that we catch these and have it noted for third reading,
Okay.
I'm fine with doing first and second as long as that's caught.
Right on. Okay, so just to the whole discussion of it, I just want to, like I say, I like to, first of all, how this fees and charges amendment bylaw applies to everybody in town could be very easily misread as increasing everybody's taxes, the residential rate, not the taxes, sorry.
Utility fees.
The utility fees by $64.03, and that's not the case. Basically, we had a parcel tax. Under new legislation, we're not allowed to have a parcel tax. That is simply moving over to the utility fee. But there's a couple other places where this substantively affects people's taxes. It's a relatively low number. But there is two things that I think this bylaw, and we can just talk about them, and then we've got third and fourth reading to get to do our homework on this. But it bears saying, because I think we're saying this. One is that there's a proposed fee, and I'm saying this at the right time, am I? Regarding the vacant properties. That is, if you have a vacant lot to date, you don't pay, you didn't pay this type of utility fee. And there's a proposal that you would pay half of what that category would otherwise. And I think it's an effort to recognize all of that work that goes on in maintaining a sewer system and a water system, that it's not just about getting water, but the reason your land has value is because it's in the middle of the town and you can hook up pipes to it. But it's kind of it is a departure from where we've been before. And so I think that's why we have this open public process, is to go through these things. And then also I think there's a measure of, just for me, I think this is the right way to do it, but there's a measure of sort of consultation. So I'd like to talk with a few people around town, but that's just something we do as part of, it's first and second reading. We kick it out there and then have a discussion. Another thing, another proposal here is to make a commercial water rate. And right now, there's all sorts of rates for all sorts of businesses that are sort of custom jobbies. And the idea is, if you just read it off the page, it probably won't make sense to you unless you realize that commercial places like, say, the Stedmans or other different businesses end up paying about $600 a year, in spite of, without seeming to have a link to their use of water. And then other people historically have just not paid very much at all. And there seems to be some unfairness around that. Ideally, what we'd love to do is have a base rate fee for what you pay for the infrastructure, where we all pitch in together and say we got to keep the pipes rolling and everything, and then roll out a water meter thing and say, if you use this much, that's the addition that you put in. But we're not there yet, unfortunately. We have this broken system. And I think this bylaw, reviewing it at this time and rolling away the parcel tax fees, is an attempt to say, let's make something that's fair. But that needs more discussion. That's why we do first and second reading, and that's why we'll bring it back for third reading and fourth reading ultimately. So just putting all the issues out on the table there so everybody catch them, and we're not hiding anything. It's not a hidden
That's good.
change. But, well, I have plenty of time to think about this. Any other comments? Councillor Salt?
So are we talking about all three of these right now, or?
No, we'll just talk about this. Well, let's just stick with the fees and charges.
Okay,
Yeah, okay. Let's take a vote on fees and charges. All in favor, first and second reading. Okay. Okay, let's move along to 14.6. That is first and second reading of water supply regulations bylaw 709. And I'll move first and second. I'll move first and second reading. Sorry, I got confused there. And it's funny because sometimes when you think about how to do stuff, I just noticed so I'll move first and second reading. Can I get a seconder? Second. Councillor Latimer? I think implicit in this is, I've got a lot of notes scribbled on this page. I'm trying to find if this is the one. Is this the one where, remember we had that conversation about restriction and prohibition?
That's right, yeah.
Which section is that in the bylaw?
It's right into the end.
Okay.
The second to last section after offense and penalty, section 13.
Oh, right. Okay, and it just seems because we're repealing that bylaw 659, 561, where the water restrictions are just very, it's just a bylaw just dealing with water restrictions. We're sort of rolling it into one. I just refer to staff. Does this bylaw give us very clearly the authority to do what we used to do, or the equivalent of what we do with the water restrictions?
So there's two clauses. Higher up, not section 13, there's a clause that gives council the authority to create water restrictions in times of water shortage.
Okay.
And then if someone does not abide by a restriction placed by council, the key clause is 13.7. No consumer shall use water contrary to this bylaw and without limitation contrary to the water use restrictions as set by council or the authorized person.
Okay, I see it. Good. Thank you. That was a tough one.
But it was complicated because we took a 4-page bylaw and converted it to 2 clauses.
Yes.
So.
Okay, but it'll do the trick. Okay. Do you guys have on this? If not, I'll take a vote on whether we pass first and second reading. Oh, yep.
No.
Oh, all in favor? Okay, I thought I was like, okay. Sewer connections regulations bylaw. 710, 2013, sewer connection regulation. Of course, the recommendation here is the same, that we would give first and second reading. I'll move that. Okay, Councillor Blanchette. Any discussion about this one? Councillor Salt?
Section 12, 12.11, it's referencing a section 11.10. I'm wondering if that's not supposed to be section 12.10. There isn't an 11.10, at least not on my copy.
So, sorry, you're referring to?
I'm on, under section 12 of bylaw 710,
Okay.
under the fees.
Yeah.
It's 12.11, it says where an owner has at its expense installed a service connection to a property line as part of their subdivision servicing or other development requirements, sections 11.10 shall not apply. But when I look back to see what section
Right.
11.10 was, there is no 11.10. So I'm thinking it's supposed to be 12.10, but I could be wrong.
There's a partial payment for.
Shall
if
not
you
apply,
turn
and the
on
owner
your
shall pay
sewage.
only
Yeah.
an inspection fee.
Sort of a prorated rate.
Yeah,
That's correct. It should be 12.10.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Councillor Salt?
Sorry.
No worries? No, it's good.
Just the bylaw committee police here.
Yeah. It's a team. It takes a team.
So I'm also just wondering then, if we're gonna be readdressing the bylaw enforcement, notice enforcement and adjudication, are there gonna be any charges and fines that we're gonna have to add into that bylaw accordingly for the sewer and water?
For every item listed in section 13 of each water and sewer, there'll need to be, as well as potential other sections. One of the reasons we didn't bring that forward now was we wanted to ensure council comfort in first and second reading with this, and once the regulations have been moving along, potentially at the December 11th meeting or sometime in the new year, we could do first, second, and third reading of the bylaw adjudication amendment piece.
Okay.
But that we felt that could come after
Sure.
the crux of the regulations,
Makes
if that was
sense.
okay.
Yeah.
Did you add extra sections just to make sure that 13 was offenses and penalties? Section 13? Is that where the offenses and penalties go in bylaw documents? Section 13? You don't really need to just. All right. Then if there's nothing further, we'll hold a vote on that. First of all, I'll second Councillor Salt's minor amendment. I'll grab that one. All in favor of the amendment, which is just correcting the number. And then all in favor on the main motion. Yeah. Excellent. The amended main motion. I have a funny story about that, but I'll say that. Okay, so that brings us out of sewer connections and regulations. This brings us to council reports. And should I go first? It's always nice and quick when I do. So I was at the regional district. I'm dying to tell you this, perfect timing though. The regional district, and we were doing motions around the agricultural land reserve, which by the way, are all in the news right now. And we have some delegated authority, and there's a role that that we play. And there was a set of motions. One was to send an application forward to the Agricultural Land Commission. The next recommendation was to send it with a recommendation of denial. But there was a motion from the floor to change it to, instead of denying that, we send this application on forward and say, deny it. We actually changed, there was an amendment to say, bring it forward and approve it. But that motion was defeated. The next motion, which was just in the agenda, was to send it along with a recommendation. Oh, no, then there was a motion from the floor to send it with a recommendation of denial, which was also defeated. So we ended up sending a recommendation to the Agricultural Land Commission with no recommendation. It was like we were all just like, whoa, what do we do now? Anyways, very interesting. And because when you do something, you can't do it again. Anyways, it was Robert's rule. Robert would have had a fun time with that one. Otherwise, in my report, very quickly, sorry. So it was all about TV this last couple weeks. We had Valemount Idol, which is the big television show that we do where the whole community comes out and all the talented young people come out and do their thing. It was absolutely fantastic. It was so great to be there. I got the title of executive producer and did absolutely nothing. I brought the judges a glass of water, was one of the things I did. But it was great to see the show running fine. And I think, Hollie and Councillor Blanchette and I have a role in that. We started it together back in the day. Anyways, that thing has grown and it's its own deal now.
It's good.
Yeah. It was really fantastic. And then, if this isn't meta enough for you, there was a television crew here last week that they're doing a documentary, a short doc. They're thinking about doing a television show about Valemount. And so that was really strange. and they had me parade down Fifth Avenue talking about the town while they videotaped me. Like right at like 4 o'clock, so everybody in town knew. It's just like no secret there. So I thought I'd just put it out there. Anyways, they're from Lark Productions, and Ben Rotterman was a guy, and it was really good. I think they were really charmed. I think Ben and the cameraman Chris were really charmed by the town. I think they want to do a show about Valemount, but I think it's too nice.
When you say show, do you mean documentary? Or
Yeah.
show?
A documentary show.
Like a reality show?
Read my lips. Reality show. Documentary series. We'll see. I don't know what they would do. What would they? Yeah. I was also, so I was at Regional District, as I mentioned, and as well I had the Columbia River Treaty. I thought we were going to wrap that thing up, but I was in a 2-hour teleconference today about it. It's not done. No, there's lots more work to do as it is. But I will just say this piece is that the provincial government, the people, Kathy Eichenberger and her crew from the provincial review team who are looking at the Columbia River Treaty, this is so amazing. They absolutely get it. They get about Valemount's situation. And in their thing, they got it even better than the committee that I sit on, the local government committee. They said essentially this clear, that many communities in the basin have been affected, but some have gained the benefit of the economic activity of the construction and the ongoing maintenance and the economic flow through of having dams in their region, and some have got very little. And it's amazing to see that there in the provincial draft recommendations right up at the front. And I just thought that is just a nice thing to hear. So. That concludes my report. Who wants to go? Yeah.
Did two things in the last couple of weeks. The Varda regular monthly meeting, all geared up. They've got all their staff hired, so we're just waiting for some snow. And then the Chamber of Commerce did the Kinder Morgan presentation on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. And there's 63 people that attended, local people. It was a great turnout. There was lots of great questions, and the presentation was awesome. It was they brought some really good information to all of the residents, and actually talked to some people on the side that hadn't been contacted, landowners, where the pipeline was going to be going through. So very impressive, and that's it.
Okay, I have to get caught up because I wasn't here last time. Oh. Sorry. So October 23rd and 24th, we had the community-to-community workshop with the SIMP staff and council, and that was really wonderful to share our stories and ideas and realize that our municipalities are very close, and it's, how we can work together for the betterment of both communities. October 28th was the library expansion meeting, so we're trying to get all of that paperwork finished that was required. October 29th was the CVRC, which is the rec center, and we're jumping into the winter schedule. And I also approached the board to see if the walking group for around the world can use the rec center to walk in the wintertime, which we can. November 6th was the Love Valemount launch, which was absolutely fantastic. And all these little businesses that you don't know exist come popping out. It was marvelous. I think it's a really good program to have for the locals and for the tourists. The November 7th, we had our VCTV meeting. Everything's going along there. November 9th was Maureen Brownlee's book launch and Maria's book sale, which was fantastic. The 12th to the 15th, I was in Prince George doing the workshop on building a healthier community. It was sponsored by Northern Health and the BC Healthy Communities. It was a whole day. It was fantastic. Tons and tons of little communities all suffering the same things that we're all having trouble with, trying to get people active, trying to get people moving, what to do to help others. So we came up with tons of great ideas. McBride is just right up the road. What can we do and work together? Then I attended, the next day was the Northern Research Days and Conference of the Canadian Rural Health Research Society to present the Walk Around the World program. to a panel, which was really intimidating because I went last after 3 doctors. And you talk about your acronyms, holy mother of crumb. So, but what was really neat was, and there was people from all over. I mean, one of the presenters was from Newfoundland, you know, tons from Ontario. And one of the physicians from Alberta really liked our program and took some of the packages. So it was nice to see that somebody liked our stuff. November 18th, we had the Northern Health Consultation for Healthy Aging and Wellness. The first half was here in Valemount. It was a very small panel, but really great. Michael McMillan was here from Northern Health, really good information. Then I drove that night up to McBride for the McBride half. So we've got information on both communities. Then on the 19th, we had our Advisory Planning Commission meeting. We did home-based businesses. We're having a really good public turnout and really good ideas. So it's really, really nice. November 21st, I attended the Trans Mountain Expansion presentation. Huge turnout, a lot of good information. What I really liked was that they gave us a heads up for the website for people who want to work and be employed, and how to contact the contractor. So there's a website out there for people to fill out. Then on the 22nd, just myself, I attended the Valemount Idol, which was fantastic. The mayors, we said we started it, and it's mushroomed into this great thing. Everybody did a really great job, and there's so much talent. And when you see a little 9-year-old get up there and sing, it's fantastic. So it was really good. That's it.
Great.
Yep.
That's a hard act to follow. Wow. Okay, well, you know, I've been sitting with my feet up. Gee, honestly. On the 13th, I actually attended a presentation to council from the Community Development Institute. Presenters Greg Helseth and Marlene Morris. We had a really great meeting with them, discussing different challenges that different communities face with the hard economic times and what we can try and do to work together. And we had a really great discussion, took a lot of really good notes, and I think we'll be doing some more work probably with them and amongst ourselves. So it was really good. I took part in the craft fair, and it was a huge turnout. A lot of crafters and a lot of the public showed up, so it was great to see. You know, that's an annual event that brings everyone out, so it's great fun. Also on the 18th, I attended along with Councillor Blanchette the Northern Healthy Aging consultation, and like I said, we had a small group there. I think there was about 15 people based on the article that I saw David Kaufman submitted. And they'll be taking all of these consultations from all the different communities. They'll be developing a report that will go before the Northern Health Board for their review and approval. And then that report of all the different community consultations will be made public. I think they were for February of 2014. So we'll be looking forward to seeing what they come up with that. But certainly a lot of concerns in our community and surrounding area about different things that are lacking for seniors, people with mobility issues, housing, etc. So it was a very good meeting. And unfortunately, I had a meeting get postponed due to some illnesses, which is fine because I don't want to get sick. So I said stay away. And that's it for me.
Thank you. That's great.
Well, I only have one thing to report, which nobody talked about, but we had a meeting about our community conversations yesterday to be prepared for it on Thursday, which I'm really looking forward to because it is our second annual community conversations, which is totally different this year because between the hours of 4 and 7, we'll have an open house that will there'll be different booths provided by different partners within the village, like the community forest and the regional district, to have members of the public participate if they can't come for the whole evening's event, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Great. And then just to key off,
I was going to say,
the what do you think table's going to be there. Mm-hmm. Right, so we're gonna have a what do you think, and there's 3 things right now that we're talking about. One is a new location for the cemetery, possible locations. One is testing how people feel about backyard chickens. And another one is on the medical marijuana. There'll be a little trial stand. Oh, God. Why did I have this? You shouldn't give us such an interesting agenda. No, there'll be, it's not a trial. It is a thing to say, should we accommodate growing of commercial medical marijuana in the village? Just to get people's feedback on that.
Are we also having a booth with EMBC as well?
Yes, the EMBC will be there as well. And, yeah, good, that's what you're,
Yeah.
I thought you were just making an opening so I can make a joke about marijuana.
I was gonna say EMBC is gonna be there that night as well.
What wasn't the, what do you think, gonna be kind of open to feedback of whatever anybody
And
can
also
let us know?
everything. Yeah, everything. So give us ideas. And a couple other things. One, I wanted to mention the, anyways, you just have all these things. The OBAC, the annual general meeting from the Almanica Beetle Action Coalition. And thanks for bringing up CDI. Yeah, it was great to have them in our community. They deserve a mention. Okay, with that, we'll wrap up our council reports.
Shall I make a motion to accept those?
Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Salt, all in favor? Great. Next item on the agenda. The next item that we need to deal with is right down at public comment. This is an opportunity for comments from the public about items that have been on the agenda. We restrict comments to 2 minutes. And when you speak, you don't need to be from the village or anything like that, but when we speak, we just ask you to identify your name and address. So if you say something that's not nice, we can find you. Okay, so I'm going once, going twice. All right, that's good. Going 3 times. Okay. Public comment is right. Better to save it for Thursday. That's gonna be a hoot. Okay, right on.
The nice comment.
The nice comment.
You're new.
It's gonna be Christmas baskets, okay?
Okay, great. So then, gosh, there's one other thing. It doesn't matter. Okay. Oh, wasn't the craft fair fun? Sorry. Okay, and with that, notice to proceed in camera. Councillor Salt, Councillor Latimer, all in favor? Okay.
Thank you for coming. Thanks.